Well, we went to go see the new D&D movie, Honor Among Thieves. GameMasters here, and I missed out on the cool swag given out at AMC Theaters for the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves. I think they sold a popcorn bucket in the shape of a D20. There was a limited edition poster and a map of sorts. Sadly, the area we were to go see the movie in was hit fairly hard by a deadly tornado. And while that's not the focus of this video, I did want to say that my heart goes out to those in the Little Rock, Arkansas area. You all are in my thoughts. I will say, however, that this review will be as spoiler-free as possible. I don't want to give away anything major that happens in the movie should you be on the fence about wanting to see it, but I will talk about a few specific mentions of events and characters that one might deem to be a bit too spoilerish. That said, let's jump into the review. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a blockbuster, I can't wait to go see it again movie either. Oh, and there's no after-credit scene, but there is a mid-credit scene if you want to stick around for that. Okay, let's break it down. The movie itself was fun. The dialogue is very on par with many of tabletop conversations that our group has had. Sometimes a bit on the serious side, many times on the straight up just goofy side, but always in the spirit of fun. There were plenty of Easter eggs in the movie, but the disappointing element is they're just that. Easter eggs. Familiar terms to us, the players, something that we can smile at, but nothing solid enough to expand upon. We get a reference to Mordenkainen, to Baldur's Gate. There is a brief encounter in the... Those savvy enough may even recognize Revel's End from Rime of the Frost Maiden. We do, however, see a Displacer Beast, a Mimic, the City of Neverwinter, and while those were fun things to see, we saw almost zero dungeons and very little dragons. We've seen in the trailer Raycor, a black dragon, and we also know that Hasbro is pushing Raycor as a toy dragon. But in the movie, Raycor is shown only in a flashback, and really what you saw in the trailer of him, that's it. We also know that from another trailer that Thimbershoud, the red dragon, is in it, and again he has all about 5 or 6 minutes of screen time, and is quite on the pudgy side, and has taken up residency in the... Actually, that's a little bit too much of a spoiler there. But suffice it to say, Thimbershoud, instead of living in Gracklstall, he now resides in an area that I'd very much like to see an entire movie take place in. And that's probably one of my biggest gripes, is that we didn't have any dungeons and very little in the way of dragons. There was a maze of sorts. I don't really consider that to be a dungeon, but in that maze we do get a nice throwback Easter egg to the old 1980s D&D cartoon. That said, however, we do get a lich, some cool magic items. The Red Wizards of Thay are represented. There's a half-dragon, dragonborn, tabaxi, aarakocra, dwarves, undead, I think a halfling, a hobgoblin, Displacer Beast we mentioned. There's a mimic, of course, tiefling, gelatinous cube, and potatoes. Potatoes. Okay, this is an ongoing joke, but trust me, in your Dungeons & Dragons game, potatoes are probably going to come up a little bit this week. And that's the type of in-joke that is very typical at our tabletop role-playing game. Something that just goes on and on and on and on throughout the whole session. When I left the theater, I initially thought to myself, well, that's it. Movie's over. And there really wasn't anything more to think about it. It didn't leave me curious or really wanting more. As I sat there, however, recalling scenes and dialogue for this video, I did laugh at some of the moments. And that's not to say that the movie was a comedy. While it had comedic moments, it was very much a typical D&D adventure. And I think that's my biggest issue. I wanted an epic D&D adventure. I wanted something that was on par with my own games, and I've got a feeling that many dungeon masters and players may have a similar takeaway. The movie was fun in its own right, but what we come up with at our own table, what you play at your table, is going to easily be miles above what you saw in the theater, or what we saw in the theater, in terms of cleverness and storyline, really. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a good, eat some popcorn, drink a soda kind of movie. It didn't leave me with an overwhelming feeling of awe and wonder after the credits rolled, but it did leave me with being content and satisfied that I didn't waste my money on watching it in the theater. Am I happy I saw it? Sure. Could I have waited to watch it until it hit Netflix or Hulu or some other streaming service? Yeah, but seeing as I do a lot of D&D coverage on this channel, I kind of felt compelled to check it out as soon as I was able to try to provide to you all an as unbiased look at it as I could. In closing, I can say this. If your view has shifted to Hasbro and WotC are evil, then you're likely going to find fault with every element of this movie. If, however, you enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons and enjoy watching movies in general, you're likely to have a very fun time watching this movie. Do you have to be a fan of D&D to understand it? Not really. They do enough explaining that even folks totally unfamiliar with the game will understand the motivations of the characters and the spells and the magic items within. Speaking of magic items, characters and spells, if you'd like to explore the main characters and the magic items found in the movie, but see them translated over to the pencil and paper version of Dungeons & Dragons, be sure to check out this playlist. It covers all of that and more as it would be detailed for the role-playing version. Talk to me in the comments below. Have you seen the movie yet? Do you plan to? Not at all? Let's chat about it down in the comments, and until next our paths cross, may you have a good potato.